Good morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday. I'll remind you, tomorrow is Theology Thursday, so that is the entire episode dedicated to answering your Bible questions. Be sure to submit those to me. If you want to put them in the comments section today during this show, I will write those down. Or if you just want to save it and give it to me tomorrow, that's absolutely fine. I don't do prep for it. I just take your questions. I work with the Bible and what knowledge that I may have, and we do the very best that we can to provide you good, sound Bible answers to your theology questions. Now, we have a few things to get to today. They are wanting to make the church look like the Mexican government. By that, I mean they want women to be in power with the newly elected Mexican president that is a female. And we're going to talk about that. Christianity today is dead. And by Christianity today, maybe that works on multiple aspects, but it's dead in the sense of the institution, the publishing company that is Christianity today. Whatever it once was, there is now a dead body laying in front of us, and just consider me the coroner, and I'm declaring that it is now deceased. It's been murdered sometime along the way. But we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the debate and my predictions for it and what I think is going to be unfolding tomorrow night as President Trump and President Biden get ready to square off once again. And we are going to be discussing why the King James Old English is not only a quality that you should admire, it's also advantageous. We'll talk about that as well, and give a good defense for that traditional King James translation. I appreciate all of you that are jumping on today to take the time to listen to these important matters, because you absolutely do care. This is not a theology show entirely. We absolutely touch on theology, and that's kind of the heart of our show, but it really is a very broad. It's a very broad category. I wouldn't call it a political show. I wouldn't call it entirely a theology show. We touch on all these various matters that affect the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And that is naturally going to include matters of politics. It's going to include matters of society, matters of culture. And you need to be well-rounded on all those things. I think if you are going to be a smart citizen, if you're going to be a good member of a church, if you're going to be a good father, a mother raising children, you need to have a finger on the pulse of how these things are going. The head in the sand view of politics is a failing method. Also, the I'm too good to get involved in politics is a failing method. And furthermore, the mentality of I don't need to know what's going on in the culture. It is also not a good method. We need to know what our future generations are going to be facing, where all of this is trending, where all this is going. There were those that lived before us who saw the movement of free love in the 60s, and they knew where all this was going. And they were considered a bunch of Bible-thumping, stick-in-the-muds, old-fashioned, bitter clingers, you name it. They were mocked for saying how silly it is to say that the intimacy of marriage should exactly be that, within the confines of marriage, not open to anybody to be enjoyed at any time. And we, as a society, laughed at them, called them prudes, you name it. And yet they knew all along that whenever you destroyed the intimacy that was meant to be between a man and his wife, it was going to destroy marriages. And then whenever you destroyed marriages, you were going to be destroying the roles of men and women. And whenever you destroy the roles of men and women, you're actually going to be destroying the very concept of a man's responsibility and a woman's responsibility. And now we have fallen all the more down this bottomless pit of now completely redefining what humanity is and what men are and what women are. And whenever you attack men and women, that is so fundamental. What do? You attack children. and children are going to be the next target. They already are. We're already murdering children just because they happen to not be outside of the womb. That is, for whatever reason, deemed to be a part of the woman's body, not actually a separate human being. And also, what is a woman? They don't know the answer to that either. You can see the snowball effect that it has had. And I think if we are going to correct course, if we're going to fix that, Christianity, the term I'll use, right? Bible believers, we have to get our act together, and we've got to start realizing where the attack is coming from. We've got to get on the front lines, and we've got to start defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And we do so by having a good understanding of the political ideologies of today, the societal movements of today, the cultural ideals of today, or more ideas. They're absolutely not ideal. And with that, let's talk about who may be our next president sitting in the White House. We have tomorrow night the CNN debate between Biden and Trump. I am going to give you my predictions for what's going to happen, okay? I'm going to tell you who do I think is going to win, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with the polls once it takes place, okay? So here's my two predictions. First of all, we have set things up, by we I mean a lot of people that are on the conservative side of the aisle, with the expectation that Biden is going to fall apart on stage. I'm going to tell you, out of all the likely scenarios that can happen tomorrow night, that is one of the most least likely. Biden, with all of his problems, is cognitive enough that he can hold it together for an hour. And whatever they do to prepare him, right, whatever they may do, maybe give him a little bit of the extra boost, maybe that they gave him for the State of the Union address, I think they're going to make sure, they're going to have already tested it out to make sure that he can last an hour. It would make you wonder if he was so severely degraded, if he was so severely incompetent, they probably would have already tested it and come up with some excuse. They may have tried to use something that Trump said to say Biden is not going to legitimize this terrible man, so the debate is now off. Trump de facto forfeited by his actions, whatever terminology that you want to use. I think they're not going to go into the debate if they don't think Biden can keep it together for an hour. Now, with that, it's going to come down to really, can Trump retain himself and stay on target? I think Trump is probably going to be contained more so than he was in 2020. I think what we're going to see is going to be much more of a second debate. Trump, as in the year 2020, if you'll remember the first one, he was very aggressive, kind of came off as annoying, overbearing. Probably some people think that Trump is annoying and overbearing anyways, but he was much more reserved and controlled himself that second time around. Expect to see more of that Trump. Now, who is going to win? I think by the end of the night, both sides are going to think they won. Biden's side is going to think that he made all the talking points that was needed. Biden's talking points are going to be January 6th, Trump being a convicted felon, and abortion maybe. That's kind of the third one that they're trying to make a big deal about, because they don't care about that they've given up on guns. They may cry about it every now and then, but they're not going to even try it, really. They're not going to make a play for it. They may try to bring up, I don't even know what else they may try to bring up. They may try to bring up some aspect of Trump's rhetoric regarding racism. Like they may try to bring up that the Charlottesville, was it the speech that he gave, that there were fine people on both sides, that they always take out of context. They may try that, but I think their big ones are simply going to be the felony charges, January 6th, and maybe abortion, and that's it. So if Biden brings up those talking points, their side is going to come away saying that he won. Trump, he's going to hit Biden on inflation. He's going to hit Biden on the border. He's probably going to talk about some matters of foreign affairs. If Biden brings up Trump being a felon, Trump may bring in Hunter Biden into the conversation. And at the end of the day, Trump's side is going to come away saying that they won. My big prediction is I don't think that this debate is going to make a big difference. I don't think that it's going to be a drastic change in how people perceive these two candidates. They've seen them for too much. They have already formed their opinion. The only big things that could possibly happen, two things. If Biden has a moment where he freezes up, if he has a moment where he does mentally fall apart, he gets confused, he kind of does he starts to explain and then he kind of trails off and goes, well, anyway. That could be a moment that people look at and say, this guy is just he's not with it. And if you contrast it to Trump, who's going to be high energy, we don't expect Trump to have any issue with that. He hasn't shown that issue at all. That could have some impact. The only other way that it could happen, that this debate could sway anything, is if Trump gets up there and is just like the first time around, the first debate between the two in 2020, so over the top and just aggressive and seems uncontrolled, unhinged. He gets off on some tangent that he just really doesn't need to be focused on. If he focuses on them stealing the 2020 election, like he needs to stay away from that. I think that if Trump can stay away from all of those things that he can tend to rant and rave about and can stay contained, it's kind of like this. In baseball, here's the honest truth when it comes to baseball and a lot of other sports as well. The team that wins is not necessarily the team that does anything exceptional to beat you. The team that wins is the team that doesn't beat themselves. So in baseball, you don't have to make the diving play to win the game. What you need to do is you need to be able to field the ground ball hit to you and throw the runner out. That's what you have to do. As a batter, you don't have to hit the home run to win the game. What you have to do is get up there and you need to put the ball in play when you get up to bat. You need to not swing at bad pitches. You need to be smart and make the pitcher earn every single out. Doing your job is how you win, and letting the other team make mistakes is how they lose. I look at this debate the same way. It's not going to be that one of them does something exceptional to win. It's going to be which one is going to let the other side make the mistake. And so that's my prediction. I think that by the time it's all said and done, Thursday night, we're all going to sit back tomorrow on Friday morning whenever I do my show. I'm going to say, yeah, that's about what we thought it was. Not much is going to change. Trump made some good points. Biden managed to stay in there without falling asleep. And both sides are going to declare victory. So that's my predictions for our first presidential debate. The situation really isn't going to benefit Trump, obviously, with all the rules in place, the mics being able to be turned off. The debate moderators, it is going to be obviously partial to Biden. You will be able to see that. And that's going to be one of the big takeaways. That's going to be about the only thing that people will be talking about is how the moderators were kinder to Biden. Obviously, it's CNN and Jake Tapper and whichever other one that they're using. Obviously, very partisan in that. So, sorry to be the bearer of, meh news, but don't expect this debate to be a big deal. I don't think that the political landscape is in the situation or the configuration to allow debate to make a difference. I think some years it does. I think, for example, if we had let's just say a hypothetical Ron DeSantis versus Gavin Newsom debate, that I think potentially has a whole lot more potential to sway somebody, because those are two people that everybody's still kind of trying to figure out where they stand. Looking at a comment here, Cleo Geo, absolutely right. People have pretty much already made up their minds. So this is just more for show. I think this is more for pleasing your own respective side. Biden's going to do it to show them that, yeah, Jack, I can stand up to Trump whenever I get enough medications. And then Trump says, I didn't back down. I took it to him and gave the people the best show that I could. So that's my thoughts on it. We really are this is the most boring presidential cycle, I think, ever for an election. And which is crazy to me because it seems like there's a lot of things going on that should make for a big deal. I mean, the presidential power right now is prosecuting their own opponent. He has been put through an absurd trial in which they came up with some fake charges, and the judge had this silly ruling that if you can come up with some crime that Trump committed in the act, then sure, yeah, we can give him 34 charges of felonies. Yet, it's also tired. I think that we have already seen these two for a while now, and we're tired of, obviously, those that are conservative, we're tired of Biden. And I don't know. I hope that maybe this summer is kind of a more calm election cycle than normal. It seems like normally every 4 years in the summertime, things get a little bit more unhinged. And I know that it's still only June, but June, July is kind of whenever something happens. And so far, it's been kind of nothing. I don't know. It's interesting to see. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Hey, today is Ed's birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Ed Trask. Happy for you. That's great. You young whippersnapper. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the article on Christianity Today with addressing this matter of the new president of Mexico. This is some good quality Christianity Today. And I saw also Cleo Geo made the comment that Christianity Today is owned by the Democrats. This is absolutely true. Do not read Christianity Today as anything other than just another progressive activist group. I've already covered a number of their articles. It is rare for me to see an article from Christianity Today that really is conservative at all. It's always the most milquetoast, if not leaning into progressive ideology. So if you have if you have a subscription to Christianity Today, cancel that subscription, okay? It's worthless. It's no good. Cut it out, all right? I have a free subscription so I can read these silly articles to you. But here it is. Mexican female leaders are breaking through politically. Are evangelical women too? 4 leaders weigh in on whether a woman president will change gender dynamics in the church. All right, you can already see where this is going. Are we going to now, because we have a female Mexican president, are we going to start having more females in charge of churches, leading the churches? And you may say, wait a minute, why is that a question that we're asking? Aren't the elders, the bishops, the deacons supposed to be men? Well, yes, you are absolutely right. But this is 2024, and everything has to be questioned and redone, and we got to turn everything on its head, completely undoing the order that God has put in place. Here we go. Let's read a little bit of this article. Earlier this month, Mexico elected its first female president when Claudia Sheinbaum, I don't know how you pronounce that. All right. I don't know if I can say this or not, but that doesn't sound like the most Spanish type name. Claudia. Maybe it comes down to how you pronounce it, but I don't know. I'm disappointed. I would expect something a little bit more. Yeah, that almost sounds, I don't know. Sounds like Claudia. What's the origins of the name Claudia? Okay, I better move on. That's a silly point to make, I guess. Won 59.7% of the vote. That's pretty wide margins, in today's time. If you consider I don't know that in 2024, Biden or Trump is going to get 59.7% of the vote. Well, if things were held if the vote was just between American citizens, then probably, but there's going to be a lot of non-American citizens vote in this election. The former mayor of Mexico City, Sheinbaum, also previously served as an engineer and a university professor. That's a mark against her already, being a university professor. In recent years, Mexico has been hailed internationally as a model for female political leadership. Okay. All right, I just got to stop for a second. Mexico has been hailed internationally as a model for female political leadership. I think that's an insult to female political leaders because Mexico is one of the worst countries. It is run by the cartels. They have people fleeing in droves trying to get across the southern border into America because the cartels' drugs is so awful. It's almost a third world country, Mexico is. And the only places that aren't third world are the places where the tourists go to for the resorts. It's almost like Jamaica, if you will. Yeah, Jamaica has its like one nice place, Sandals or whatever, and then everything else is a Civil War nightmare. Mexico would not be the ideal example to use as a great country showing how women can really be good political leaders. It's all these jokes write themselves. So here we go already. Christianity Today, not making the point I think they're trying to make. In the 1990s, the government introduced policies promoting female participation as political candidates. Currently, 13 of Mexico's 32 states are governed by women. Ana Lilia Rivera. See, that sounds like the name of what the Mexican president should be. Serves as a president of the Senate, and Guadalupe Tadí leads the National Electoral Institute, which organizes the country's elections. All right, so their whole point is, how great is this that women have advanced politically? They are taking charge in Mexico. How are they going to make, or have they made the same ground in the church? Now, I'm assuming this is in the scope, and I think the article supports this, that it's in the scope of the Mexican church, that it's not talking about American, but hey, they're trying to suggest, hey, we got a female president in Mexico. Come on, America. Where's the female president at? All right, just kind of prodding us along a little bit there. And so with that, it says the Mexican church is highly diverse in its political stances. Pastors and religious leaders often campaign for evangelical candidates who promote pro-family values, while others encourage voting from a neoconservative perspective. Neoconservative. In this election, no evangelical leaders or institutions formally supported any candidate. In political campaigns, candidates often view women as objects or puppets. The patriarchy. Women are just property to be owned. Something easy to manipulate. Okay, so let me just talk about a few things really quickly. Candidates often view women as objects or puppets. The entire platform of the Democratic Party is we can manipulate women and minorities to doing what we want them to do by dangling carrots out in front of them. For the minorities, it's like, hey, vote for us. We're going to enact affirmative action and make sure that you get the front line at the colleges, even though your scores may not have been as good as somebody else's. Or, hey, ladies, you want to be able to kill your babies? Vote for us. That way no man can tell you what to do with your body. Ladies, I want you to listen, because you, by the statistics, are more likely to vote Democrat. They see you as a puppet. They see you as somebody they can manipulate, all right? They only are pro-abortion because they're trying to get your vote, all right? That's why the Democratic Party, the progressive ideology, is always so quick to jump on whatever new fad comes out. Oh, we have women wanting to be feminists and not be mothers. Oh yeah, hey, Democratic Party, come on board. We're all for that. Oh, we want to say that men can become women. Sounds like a little bit more votes that we can get. Come on over. We'll bring you in. Oh, the radical Muslims, all right, that hate America. Hey, we hate America too. Come on over here. It's all about getting your vote. Will you please stop thinking they are championing women's rights? Okay? The only right they've ever supported is for you to kill your children and have to work for somebody instead of getting to fulfill the role that you were supposed to as your Creator designed you. And so all the feminists shrieked and rent their garments. They probably already did that. And gnashed their teeth at those terrible words that I just said. The political parties that focus in on women's rights, it's not your rights they're concerned with, it's your vote, and it's as simple as that. And in a sense, this perception extends to the church as well. Women serve God actively, but rarely occupy leadership positions in the church, as the new neoconservative wave seeks to further limit the spaces of influence for women. Okay, so the idea of neoconservative is just conservative, okay? That's what it means. Neoconservative is more traditional values. Conservative, without the neo in front of it, now just means just kind of traditionally liberal in some ways. The truth is, if we look at the Bible, the biblical roles of leadership was for the men. The pastors, you want to use the word bishop, elders, deacons, overseers, you name it, they're always described as men. We are just being biblical over here. Christianity today, you're a joke, okay? You are a political activist group. I'm pretty sure if we scratch the surface underneath, we're going to see something that says like CNN, MSNBC. Whoever owns you, all right, whoever owns you, Christianity today, you are just a second-rate liberal propaganda media publishing operation. That's all you are. And let's see here as it goes on here. Those who are aligned with this vision, talking about neoconservative ideology, that men and women are women, use biblical passages like Genesis 3 and passages of Paul's letters to Timothy and the Corinthians to make arguments that confine a woman's influence to their families and women's ministry. You mean they use the Bible? You mean they actually cite what the Bible says? Oh my goodness, how dastardly of them to do that. To invoke the Word of God in deciding important matters of doctrine? Evil. Evil. Social changes that led to a broader female leadership in society are not equally valued in church in the same intensity. There is no intention or plan to open more leadership spaces for women or even reflect on practices that could extend women's influences and leadership roles. Here's the truth. In today's modern churches, partly because I'm going to put it on the men stopped going, they gave up church. Women are in too many leadership roles right now. Yes, I said that. Listen to me again. Women are in too many leadership roles right now. We've had too many passive men sit back on their thumbs and not do anything at all. And women, because there was really no other option, had to take up the mantle. But once you get power, you kind of don't want to give it up. And so today, in most churches, there are women who are filling roles that are not their job. And this is true. Men have the responsibility to lead, plain and simple. So, yeah, I have no problem with this. No intention of extending it. So it amazes me they use this example of Mexican governance as if the government of Mexico is somehow this ideal example of everything that you should try to exemplify in your church. No, thank you. Okay? Because if we try to implement the Mexican platform of government and the influence that it has, well, then we'll be peddling human trafficking and fentanyl from the churches. Great job, Christianity Today, all the way around. Y'all are doing so good at fighting for women's rights and the faith in Christianity. And the rest of this garbage article goes on and on. We acknowledge that, like all human endeavors, new distortions of God's design have emerged with feminist movements, such as positions of hatred towards men, debauchery, and disdain for motherhood and marriage, often at high cost. Extreme feminism has fallen into traps equally contrary to God's plan. Knock it off, Christianity Today. Stop acting like you actually believe that, because you are operating within that program. You are with the machine, okay? Don't throw that little line towards the end of your article just to appease conservative Bible believers, okay? We can see exactly what you're trying to do here. Because if you are saying, what is the highest form of leadership in the government? It's the president, okay? The president is the highest level. Who is the leader of the congregation? The pastor. If you are trying to do a 1-to-1 ratio, what's the 1-to-1? Women pastors. That's what you're arguing Christianity today, and you're not being that subtle about it, even though you're trying to act all cutesy and pretend you are. Nonetheless, we cannot deny that it is right for women to have the opportunity to exercise the abilities God has granted them. Yes, teaching the younger women, managing, keeping the home, and taking care of the children. I absolutely agree that is the opportunity and the abilities that God has granted them. As a Christian and pastor of a local church, I believe that the election of a woman as president is part of God's plan. As a Christian and pastor of a local church, I believe that the election of a woman as president is part of God's plan. God divinely appointed her. Okay, let's just do a little bit of investigation on this matter because okay. Let's see. Mexican president's view on abortion. Let's see here. Let me look up her name. Claudia Sheinbaum. Let's see here. This is AP News. The first woman elected to lead Mexico faces pressing gender-related issues. See what her political stances are like. Among the issues that Mexican women face are femicide, or women killed because of their gender, a gender employment gap, and inadequate policies guaranteeing sexual and reproductive rights. That's abortion. She'll need to address these issues. Let's see here. We transform, we are warriors for open paths for other women. However, in spite of this, that's a quote that Sheinbaum said, in spite of this, Sheinbaum has been criticized by feminists and activists arguing that her government lacked gender-related policies. Excessive use of force against women during the demonstrations has been flagged as well. Okay, let's see here. So, apparently, Mexican Supreme Court ruled in 2023 that national laws prohibiting abortions are unconstitutional and violated women's rights, but further state-by-state legal work is pending to remove all penalties. Sheinbaum did not address this topic during her campaign. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know what her politics are. She's maybe being really, keeping all that close to the chest. I don't know. But we'll find out. So we'll see if she's God's appointed salvation for Mexico, as Christianity Today likes to say. All right. A lot of things are said. A lot of things that were said there. All right, now, with that, let's go ahead and talk about the defense of the older English in the King James Bible, okay? So the King James Version. One of the big points that are made against the King James Bible whenever you hear critics of it is they say that that older style English is hard for people to understand. It is outdated, and therefore we need a more modern translation that uses English words that are more accurate to how we speak today. That's why you have proponents of like the ESV or the NIV. Anyways, let's just look at a passage for just a second. If we go to Biblify, and let's look at, I've been prepping today for our Philippians study here. If we go to Philippians chapter 1, verse 27, it says this right here: "Only let your conversation be as it is becometh the gospel of Christ, that whether I may come and see you, or else be absent, I may hear of your affairs, that ye stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel." Now, a few phrases that you see in this verse would be an example that some people would say, this is a reason why you should not use the King James Version. It starts out by saying, "Let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ." If we go over to something like, if I go over to Bible Hub that lets me compare a whole bunch of translations, you can see how other modern translations translate this word. Okay, so over here on Bible Hub, here's the NIV. "Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ." So instead of conversation, we have conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. The NLT, "Above all, you must live as citizens of heaven." A little bit different. This is quite a bit different than this. "Live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news." English Standard Version. Why is it the standard? No idea. It's been changed a bunch of times now. "Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ." The New King James, "Only let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ." New American, "Conduct yourselves." Christian Standard Bible, "As citizens of heaven, live your life worthy of the gospel of Christ." We go down here. The NET, "Only conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ." Young's Literal, "Only worthily of the good news of Christ conduct ye yourselves." Now, let's talk about this use of conversation, because this is one reason why a lot of people are going to attack the King James Version and say that we need a modern version that does not use that old English language like conversation. First of all, let's talk about what that word conversation means in the context of the King James. "Only let your conversation," if we pull up our info here, let me try to change our format to where it shows up a little bit better. Okay. Here's the word. Here's the corresponding Greek word for "let your conversation." The word is polytome, and it comes from polites, which is the Greek word for citizen or belonging in a sense. But polytome is the verb form. Polites is the noun. And this polytome is the middle voice. And so, in a sense, this is actually your conduct. This is your own action. This is your behavior. And yes, we have the modern translations. I can click over here and show you all the places where it says conduct or your manner. So why should we defend why should we defend the use of the word conversation that appears here in the King James Version? If we go to something like the Webster's 1828 dictionary, there's an online form of it, and it's free. The Webster's 1828 dictionary is a great resource. So if you go into the Webster's 1828 dictionary, if you are a King James Bible user, okay, go to Webster's Dictionary 1828.com, and you can search whatever word you want. So if you go to conversation, it'll give you the various forms. So conversation in the form of a noun here, general course of manners, behavior, deportment, especially as it respects morals, a keeping company, familiar intercourse, intimate fellowship or association, social life, intimate, familiar acquaintance, familiar discourse, general intercourse of sentiments, chat, unrestrained talk. If we consider the scope of conversation as it was used in 1828, and 1828 very close to the same time that word still would have been translated for the King James Version. Whenever, or when, I don't know, I say whenever, but I get made fun of sometimes for saying when, or whenever. The use of the word conversation today, you and I would hear it, and we would narrow that scope. We would say conversation merely refers to us talking. So our conversation, I was talking about the name of the president, saying that doesn't sound very Hispanic to me. And then Cleo Gio gave me the background that she actually was born to a family of Jews that were living in Mexico City. So that makes more sense, right? Scheinbaum as the last name. And so that you would think, okay, conversation, that's referring to what we were discussing, okay? That would be the essence of the word. But in 1828, the word conversation was not so narrow. It referred to conduct. It referred to, once again, manners, behavior, respect to morals. What is a good equivalent for politeme? Well, politeme is behavior. It is conduct. That's the heart of it in pertaining to something. So, yes, you could have a modern translation that translates it as conduct or behavior. Here's what you gain from using a King James Version. Here's what you gain. You gain an understanding of past. You gain an understanding of what language used to mean. And therefore, now you know that conversation has been narrowed in modern times. Have words changed meaning? Have words changed meaning? I would say yes. If you look up the word today, a recession. A period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in two successive quarters. I wonder how recession was defined prior to the Biden administration. Because beforehand, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the definition of a recession was the fall in GDP in two successive quarters. However, you do now have this word, and maybe this has always been there. Maybe I'm wrong. But now they've added the word generally, or the word generally exists. Was it always defined as just generally identified as a fall in GDP in two successive quarters, or is this maybe something that was changed? Let's do this. Maybe here's one a little bit more obvious. So if we look up a woman definition, an adult female human being, a female member of a working team. Okay, here we go. Underneath the definition of woman, a person with the qualities traditionally associated with females. Let's look up. And I looked up meaning there. Let's see here just twice too. Let's do a female definition. So female of or denoting the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the product. Okay, so there's that more scientific definition. So that seems to be pretty specific on just the matter of science. Doesn't really have anything else to do with it's pretty narrow, I would say, in its definition of that. But then, like, here's a word that you probably would not expect to find. Here's a word that has been recently added. A person who is registered as male at birth but who lives and identifies as a woman, a transgender woman. That would not have been in your dictionary or a definition 8 years ago, maybe even 7 years ago. But now you can find it, and there it is. And there's the definition of it according to Oxford, right? Language changes, words change. How are we going to be able to interpret historical documents, for example, like the Constitution, the letters of the presidents, other writings, if we do not know what those words meant in their day? This is what progressives do. I guarantee you, they will take the word woman and they will retroactively read their definition of woman into the language of ancient writings. They will. They will read recession and redefine it as they have in recent years because they really don't want to claim that a president had a recession during his tenure, at least a particular president who is debating Thursday night, and not the one that may not win again in this next time around is the 47th, who is also the 45th. If we can hold on to a document, a writing, a book, that maintains the meaning of words in the English language to where we can raise our children up and they can know what conversation means and understand the scope of it whenever they are reading or interpreting documents of the past, whether they are religious, legal, scientific, you name it, they will be able to accurately and precisely understand what it's talking about. That they can understand the meaning of these words. I would say that the Bible is a scholarly work. And we have diluted the intelligence of people so much to a degree that we have dumbed down the Bible. And I believe that the average person is much more intelligent than what many people believe. Especially pastors. Pastors always assume that their congregations are clueless. so they feel like they have to regurgitate the same old stuff every single Sunday without ever getting into greater depths of doctrine and theology. So I would argue that if we will use a Bible translation that maybe does have some older language, some more dated language, instead of having to change the Bible to fit how we talk today, maybe we can approach the Bible and understand that this is a scholarly, historical document, and understand that there's language that we need to understand, how it fits into the context, how it's defined, and how it's to be used. And in doing so, guess what? We can take our knowledge learned from reading the Bible and we can use it to read other works, the writings of Thomas Jefferson, of John Adams, you name it. And we will be able to read it and we'll be able to understand it. And I think that's a great benefit. What about the other great Christian writings? Try to read those of C.S. Lewis. Try to read those of J.R. Tolkien or some others. Even some of the writers that I'm not the biggest fans of when it comes to theology, but trying to read the writings, for example, of, I don't know, consider some of the older theologians of their time, whether it's and obviously most of it would be translations into another language, but reading some of Martin Luther's, or if you want to read some of John Calvin's and Thomas Aquinas, you name it, you can read some of their writings. Even some of the more recent writers, though, I would argue, if you try to read some of those that, for example, in the Companion Bible, some of the things that are written by E.W. Bullinger, it'll be beneficial to have a decent vocabulary to be able to understand them. And some of the poems of old, if you want to read some of the great poems of Rudyard Kipling, you can read them and you can understand them. Some of the classic writings, whether you want to talk about classic books such as Moby Dick, or if you want to read maybe the writings of Dante, you can utilize your knowledge from reading the older English of the King James, and it will benefit you. I would fully support that. And we don't want the Bible to just be some other book. We don't want that to be the case. I think that if we keep the Bible in a way of some tradition and some heritage to it, it will maybe maintain the gravity of it. I would say reading from a King James captures a sense of respect and reverence that modern languages don't, or modern translations don't. If you, like, just Hollywood gets this. It amazes me because Hollywood understands. If you listen to a quote from Hollywood, they do not use the ESV, the NIV, whatever modern translation. They do not. You know what they use? They quote the King James because they get it. They understand that language and the words used capture something of weight, of gravity, of significance. Yeah, they may be misapplying it. Yeah, they may be trying to make Christians look bad or whatever. But whenever the thing of Ghostbusters, they cite Revelation, time and again you'll see them cite the Bible. They use the King James because they know that there is a gravity to it. There is a sense to it that this is scholarly, this is poetry, this is a book that carries weight and significance. And you're not going to get that from modern translations. And you'll learn what words mean. And you can enjoy the benefit of using things like concupiscence. And you can understand the usage of it and maybe work it into modern English. Who knows? We may bring it back one day. And we'd expand the word conversation, because here at Shields and Arrows, our conversation is defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And we do so in many ways. All right, I'll see here what some of our conversations are here. Dale Russell, what about the separation of church and state? Yeah, probably in regards to that article Yeah, the article probably isn't putting much of that together. The idea of, yeah, we're trying to marry church and state there. That's a good point. All right, we'll say hi to some of the people who have joined us today. We've got 5 minutes still. If there's anything you want to talk about or you'd like to discuss, be sure to let me know. And I'll remind you, tomorrow's Theology Thursday, so be thinking of those questions. Alan, good morning. Great to have you. Once again, somebody who found us on our Defending the Faith video with small churches and has stuck with us. Scott, great to have you this morning. Cleo Geo says, good morning. Debates are futile. Christianity Today works for Democratic Party, and KJV still is the best Bible translation. I should have just let you sum it up, right? What was the point in doing the show? Kristen's on today. Great to have you, Kristen. Ken, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Mom, good morning. She's going to come give me reinforcements with the kiddos in a little bit, and I desperately need that. Myra, good morning. Great to have you. Nancy, once again, be sure to tell Ed we said hi. Jeremy, great to have you as well. Ken Hammer. Howdy, Ken. Great to have you here. Appreciate you. The Christian Post, Cleo Geo says, is the same way. I haven't observed them to be as bad. They're not the worst offenders compared to Christianity Today. But I've seen some things they post that make my head spin as well. Toby's on. Good morning, Toby. Great to have you. Mary Terry, good morning. Great to have you, as well as Joyce. Appreciate you being on with us today. Cleo Geo says, Claudia Scheinbaum Pardo was born on 24th June 1962 to a Mexican Jewish family in Mexico City. Maybe she's got just enough of that Judeo values that she will not mess up too badly. But I mean, we want her to do well. I would love for Mexico to be a proper country, because that way it would be nice and people wouldn't want to try to escape it, and the cartels wouldn't be in charge and running guns and drugs and, you know, what else over to gangs here in America. That would be great. And if they're going to bring the automatic guns, they might as well share with us. At least make it fair. Come on now. It is a problem, though. As a teacher, I got to talk to some children whose parents were actually born in Mexico, and the stories that you hear, it really is. It's almost a joke that the Mexican government has any kind of control over their society, because you get outside of the city of Mexico itself, and so much of it is not even run by. So much of it is just run by the cartels and who knows, China, whatever other factions and coalitions may be operating within its borders. The idea that even if Mexico was a proper country and operating as it should, you would still want a secure border. It's not like Canada. People are going, crazy trying to run across the Canadian border to get into America. But we still have a relatively secure border in Canada. And yet we have Mexico, which is not really even, like I said, a proper nation. And yet we have the border wide open for whosoever to come across. Right? It's absolutely a joke. The idea of them being serious about keeping our country safe. The best place to start is right there. ATF, the people that are a threat to you are not the people who have rifles that are half an inch too short. They're the people that are coming across the border right now, actually smuggling drugs and illegal firearms. Like, they're the ones that are probably a problem. Maybe you should spend more time trying to secure the border than, attacking innocent people. So with that, that'll be interesting to see as well whenever the ATF raided and killed a man in Arkansas. Because the federal government, they will absolutely raid their own people, which makes you wonder, are we even a proper country? It's almost more like a police state. It makes you wonder. All right. I will remind you that on YouTube, we do have our latest sermon up for you, I believe. If not, we'll have it up for you soon. But we got Jephthah's vow. And no, we did. We have a still small voice right here for you. 96 views so far. Hey, that's not bad. Let's bump it up though. Hey, we want millions and millions of views. So be sure to watch that one, and hopefully you enjoy that for us. And look at this. Look at all this live content for you. Bible conferences, daily live streams. We're going to one day be able to live stream our sermons. Philippians, I'm working on session 6, actually session 5 as soon as we get off the live stream. How silly of me. I've got to get prepped for tonight. And be sure to share this one. Let people know about this video right here. One of our, sorry, there's an ad there. I don't do it on purpose. It's just what YouTube does. But be sure to let people know about this one right here, as it is, it's not quite doing as well as the first one, which most people don't care near as much about Bible translations, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a longer format video where we talk about matters of Bible translations, and y'all can make fun of me wearing a suit and cowboy boots, but hey, that's what you do when you're in Oklahoma. And so with that, you can listen to that content there as we talk about the importance of Bible translations and all those matters to consider. And if you want to see more videos of me in a suit trying to act a little bit cinematic, then you can support this, and you can support my ministry to where we can get more quality equipment to do more quality things. There's always more camera equipment that you can have and all of that. It seems like it's never ending. And if you want to follow more of my content, you can go to markbazeministries.org. You can support my ministry there. You can access articles, sermon notes, things like that. And, Kristen says she's watching the congregational hearing about the man in Arkansas right now. That's going to be interesting to see. What's amazing is how severely they go in. They go in and raid homes, and they look like they're ready to go to war. And it's a man who didn't have the right paperwork. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle all that. I don't know. I feel like there needs to be accountability. And hopefully there will be some eventually. Maybe if a certain president can get in office, he can clean house. Drain the swamp, drain the swamp. All right. Well, I better get around. I've got some things that I have to get done, but I appreciate each and every one of you. This has been Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Whoops, skipped on the video just a little bit there. But thank you all so much for supporting us and continuing to watch. Tomorrow, Theology Thursday. Get ready to bring those questions so I can answer all the things that you want to know about the Bible. And with that, we will see you later. Thank you so much. We'll see you.